Hello, this is Mr. Kent of MrKent.com, and I'm going to show you how I fixed my John Deere lawn sweeper. And when I first got it, it was great. It picked up the grass and the leaves, and later in the video I'll show you our yard, and you'll see why I wanted it. But anyway, this is how it originally was operated. What happened is time went by, the brush quit working. So if you take a look here at, this is how it worked. When the driven gear, driven by the wheels, was turning this direction, and this is the shaft that goes to the brush, that turns the brush. As it was turning, they had a hole drilled, which I'll show you. They have a hole drilled through the shaft, and they had a little round metal dog that when it was turning this way, that dog would slide down and get caught on the edge of this non-symmetrical cut in the gear, and then that would cause the brush to turn. Okay, so when the gear turned this direction, it would catch and the brush would turn. And then if you were backing up, or if you were going around a corner and the inside wheel was stopped but the outside wheel was turning, well then, or when it was going the opposite direction, well then when the driven gear went this way, then that dog that slid up and down in the shaft of the brush shaft, then it would just get pushed back up inside of this hole. So when you were going, when the gear was turning, when you were pulling it forward, well then this would catch and it would turn the brush shaft. But when you were going around a corner, or one wheel was going faster than the other, well then this was essentially going the opposite direction from the rest of the machine, and so this would push that little dog back up inside the shaft, and it wouldn't catch. And that way one wheel was separate from the other. They didn't both have to turn the same direction. But what happened was, as time went by, this part right here got worn off. And so no matter which way it went, this would slide back up inside the shaft and the brush would stop turning. And so that was the original problem that I had. So what I did, and I'll show you, I'll go out in the shop and show you what I did, was I got rid of the little dog that they had, and I took about a 1/8 inch piece of steel, circular, a piece of rod, and I just turned it sideways inside of this non-symmetrical shaft. And so when the gear was and of course then you have to take the gear from the left side and put it on the right side, and take the gear from the right side and put it on the left side, so that now when the gear's turning this way, the little rod that's in there, it just drops down there and kind of rolls around, doesn't do anything. But when the gear turns this way, well then that non-symmetrical area of that gear pinches the rod, and then it pinches against the brush shaft. I didn't draw that really accurately because this is up here rubbing against the shaft. It pinches against the shaft and it causes the shaft to turn. But like I say, you have to switch the gears, the left one to the right and the right one to the left. So that's what I did, and it works fine. And I'll show you some details. I'll go out and pull the wheel off in the shop and show you what I did and how you can do the same thing to yours and get your John Deere lawn sweeper working like new again. All right, so we're going to move out to the shop now and continue on. Okay, we're out in the shop, and we're going to take this wheel off, and I'll show you how I went about making the modification and some of the things that I did. First of all, years ago I read a book on how to overhaul Volkswagens, and in that book the guy said, get yourself some lunch bags, and every time you take something apart from a certain area, put it in the lunch bag. so that way you keep all your parts separated. Well, we're only going to be working on one area, but I still use the same technique because it's a good idea to keep from having your parts fall all over the place. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to just put the parts into that bag. What you're going to need is you're going to need a large screwdriver to get this circlip off. You're going to need a pair of vice grips to put it back on, and we'll get to a place where you're going to need some of these circlip pliers. You can get these at Harbor Freight. You can get a set of these. They're not too expensive, but anyway, you're going to need that. Now, if you don't have these tools, maybe you can find somebody who has them and he can help you with it, or she, and you can go ahead. So let's go ahead and get started. This is going to be kind of greasy because I just got through replacing the little part that I'm going to show you, and my grandson helped me oil everything, and so he did a really good job of getting oil all over everything, and that's all right because he was a good helper. Okay, so that goes in there, and then we have a washer. Now we can pull off the wheel. Okay, we'll put the wheel over to the side. And then behind the wheel is this. This is what the wheel turns, okay? In order to make the brush turn. Now I'm turning the brush when it goes this way, and now when I'm going this way, it's not turning the brush. And that's the way it's designed, so that when you go around the corners, that wheel over there would be turning, and this one would be standing still, and the brush would be turning, but it wouldn't be affected by the wheel. Now up here, right there, we have to pry that up, and we can do it with a pair of pliers or a screwdriver. We have to pry this off over here. Let's just get the screwdriver and do that. You just pop that off, and then there's one down here somewhere, right about here. And then this will slide off. Okay? And that's just a protective cover, so we'll lay that down there. This is the gear that the wheel turns, and you can see that it's turning this gear up here. Okay? Now when it's going frontward, it catches, and right now it's turning the brush, which you can't see. Okay? But when it goes the other way, then it breaks free. Or if it's standing still and then the other wheel is turning, well then this does its own thing and this just sits still. All right. So in order to take it, we have to slide this off the shaft, okay, and put it over here. By the way, I've had this about 5 years. You can see I've lost a few parts here and there, but I've had it about 5 years. And it wasn't long after I got it that I started having these problems. And there's some other things that I'll point out if I have time. That just kind of made me think, well, I have a John Deere tractor and it works great, but this thing, it doesn't work too good. Now, I don't know if you can see it on the video, but here's a little circlip that we're going to have to use these pliers for. So I'll go in here and I'll put these into the, well, maybe I go this way. Put these into the hole on each side and pinch, and I get it off of there. There's a little circlip. So we'll put that in there. Okay. Now we get down to what we need in order to make this thing do what it's supposed to do. So I'll just take everything off there. And then as I take this washer out of the way, oh, it fell down into my hand. Okay, so we'll just set that there. This little guy right here, I don't know if you can see him. Get him up close. Where's the camera? There we go. Get him up close. And what he does is he rides around in that right there. Just like that. Okay? And then when, and you can see there's clearance. Here's where the shaft comes through. But you notice how that's a spiral cut going in, getting closer. So when he's over here, he's pinched against the shaft coming to the brush. So then he makes the brush turn. But when the shaft goes the other direction, he rolls down in. I got it crooked. He rolls down in here, and then it freewheels. Okay. Now, when it was originally made, if you remember my drawing, their little dog was supposed to go down here and catch on this thing and then make it turn. Well, if you can see really close, I don't know if you can see it in the video or not, but there's a worn spot right there, and that's where the dog would just slide up and it wouldn't turn anymore. So what I did, I'll just set this over here. I started out making my little roller out of a piece of soft steel that was from a rack that was in the bathroom or kitchen or somewhere, and that worked. The only thing is soft steel finally begins to wear out, and so recently I decided to try stainless steel. So I ordered some stainless steel off the internet, and I wanted 1/8 inch because that's the size that is necessary. And this came, and it was a little bit smaller than 1/8 inch, and it was advertised as 1/8 inch, you know. So I would suggest that you go over to Lowe's or Home Depot and just get a piece of hardened steel rod that's 1/8 of an inch in diameter. It'd be much easier than what I did. So what you have to do, this is originally from the other side. I'm taking apart the right side. This was on the left side. So when you make this modification, you have to switch these over, otherwise it'll only work backwards. So you get your piece of rod, and you cut that, which I don't know, it's about 1/4 of an inch. What you just have to make sure is that it's almost as long as this is deep, but not any longer. So that's what we need to do. So we're going to put this. We'll put this washer back on the shaft over here. And then we very carefully, and by the way, there's a washer in here that you don't want to lose when you take this apart. And you don't want to put any oil on this, because the oil will cause this little roller to stick in one place. And I think I'm going to have to go get me a piece of hardened steel that's 1/8 of an inch, because this guy looks like he's wearing out, and he hadn't been there that long. Okay, so we set it in there very carefully, right there like that. You see that? And then very carefully we slide it onto our shaft. Like that. We can check to see if it's working, because when we turn it this way, it catches the shaft. When we turn it this way, it doesn't. Okay, and that's what we need to have happen. All right, so we got that on. Now we have to reach in our bag and get our little circlip, and got to be careful because these guys pop all over the place and you can't find them. Okay, so we got him on there now. We'll spread them apart and bring them down here. Put them on the shaft. Okay, and we are ready to put our gear back on. That's going to drive our little gear. Okay, so now when it goes this way, it makes the brush turn. When it goes that way, it doesn't. Works pretty cool. Okay, so we have that on. Then the next thing we need to do is we just need to put our cover back on. And you shove it up into this little hole here, up at the top, and then just push it together, snapping these guys on top of themselves. And then the next thing we do is we put the wheel back on. And by the way, this shaft is going to want to go, I'm greasy already. It's going to want to go back with the wheel. So you have to kind of keep an eye on that, because it'll slide in and you won't be able to put your keepers on it. Okay, so that it's okay, it stayed out. Now we can put our washer back on. And put our circlip back on. If you don't have these tools, you might be able to borrow them from a neighbor. Just remember to take them back when you're through. Okay, we just set that on there like that. Pinch it. I think it got on there, okay. We live across from the railroad track. There, I got it on there. Okay, so now when the wheel goes forward, it catches the brush. When it goes backwards, it doesn't. And that's how you fix your broken John Deere lawn sweeper. I hope that's been helpful, and I want to thank you for listening, and God bless you.